It is Friday, July 14th, 2017. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you know what time it is. It's time for some coin metal. And unfortunately, we don't have a guest today. It's just me. But we are going to be talking about some interesting stuff today. I got kind of a interesting perspective with regard to this whole FCC thing and their whole the whole net neutrality business. Personally, I don't know. I don't know how far I want to take it before we actually get into dances and whatnot, but I think it's something kind of like the mining issue with regard to Bitcoin, in that it's not really up to anybody but the people that are owning the hardware to determine exactly how that hardware should be utilized. And so, who are we to tell Comcast how to run their internet? Anyway, we're going to go ahead and kick into some music for our first dance before we get too carried away here. And so, Take It in Hand by Prong. First dance here on Coin Metal. And that was Metallica with Welcome Home Sanitarium. And of course the volume is like way too loud. Now I had to turn it up there just a tad. Oi! So, today was a fairly exciting day, I've got to say. My schedule is only seeming to get more important and more significant to me as days go by. And when I say that, I mean like more significant things happening. It's like today I tried out something I've never done before, and a lot of you have been participating completely across the board with regard to cryptocurrencies and transitioning them out to fiat, getting it into your bank account, all that other business. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. With as much as I've been participating in crypto, I've kept my crypto life and my fiat life completely separate. And it's I didn't really ever believe there needed to be an interface between the two, but apparently we do need to function on fiat for the moment a little bit longer, so I finally did that. I transitioned some funds out of one of my exchange accounts and moved them on over to a wallet and went over to the kiosk, made a couple little text messages, and well, bam, I had the money in my pocket. And so that was pretty significant. Like I said, I've bought stuff with crypto. And most of the stuff that I have bought, though, have been other cryptocurrencies, frankly. I've been using them primarily as a speculative trading tool, although I have to say I have purchased one or two items using cryptocurrencies, and I've certainly done more than enough transactions to know that it works like any other fucking money. But yeah, so that was kind of a conceptual hurdle today, taking it to actual fiat bills in the hand. It was a little more costly than I would have liked, but hey, it's not a perfect world, right? And speaking of, it seems we're going through another one of these death throes with regard to Bitcoin, how it's going to die and it's going to go away. I don't know, at least that's what my mom told me this morning, was that the top 10 cryptocurrencies were down, so I'm sure she was reading it on CNBC.com or CNN.com or something like that. I felt kind of cool that she was even paying attention to it, honestly, or that she'd listened to me enough for it to have any kind of meaning for her, But anyway, that was one big hurdle, and so that's been getting me further along on my project. And if you'd like to see the first iteration of my project, just go to my YouTube channel, and I've got a couple pictures of a couple little snippets of video from my first build, although this one is going to be a great deal larger. I mean, I'm only doing 4, but still, it's bigger. In any case, completely legit. Gotta love that. I mean, I knew that was gonna come. I mean, it's weird. Sometimes I wonder, like, if I am kind of psychic. I mean, you know, I'm not a strict materialist like a lot of people seem to be in this age. I do trust in intuition. I guess that's a product of being a fisherman. You know, after a while, you learn to trust your instincts, and it becomes a part of your intellect. You know, your everyday baggage that you use to measure things with. And I'm not saying that on like a specific note. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Apple. There was a time when Apple was trading for $3 a share. And some people would be surprised to hear this, but that was actually in between 1995 and 2000. Actually, I believe it was, I want to say it was like 1999 or 2000. It was around there. Anyway, I picked up a few shares because I knew that it was going to go stratospheric. And I told my parents, and I told other people. I'm like, I even told my broker, and he's all telling me, oh, you know, I only go for blue chip stocks. I'm like, dude, the thing has been in existence since the fucking late 70s. How fucking blue chip do you need to be? And so I kind of predicted that, you know, and if you look at the market now, what's one of the most highest valued fucking companies on planet Earth right now? That's right, Apple. Same thing with regard to Bitcoin. You know, I the moment I saw it, I knew that it was the dollar killer, because the Federal Reserve Note and other fiat currencies have been used to abuse the markets and economies of this planet for a long time. And I think it's only now that a lot of people have become aware of exactly how, you know. And I think that explains a lot of the interest in Bitcoin. Now, with regard to what's going on today with the prices and all that, it's multifold. I mean, there are a lot of shit going on out there. A lot of people are getting interested in it, and at the same time, we've got a lot of pressures going on. We got that segregated witness business still haunting us in the background, and that one will supposedly go off on August the 1st, if not sooner. I'm sure they would like it sooner. But in any case, I was thinking about this, and hold on. Before we get off into my thought here, I actually read an article where there's one or two exchanges that are freezing withdrawals and deposits of Bitcoin, at least until this whole thing gets straightened out. And that's a prudent move, really. I mean, if you're an exchange, like I said, that's a prudent move. Now, it doesn't mean all of crypto is gonna collapse or anything like that. It just means they're not going to be withdrawing in fucking Bitcoin. They'll be withdrawing in Ethereum or US dollars or yen or some shit like that. But the point being that the world isn't going to stop in crypto. And in all honesty, I don't really see the segregated witness thing as a positive for Bitcoin. Whether or not it actually happens, who's to say? We don't know. We don't know shit. And anybody who tells you for sure that they know, they're full of shit. They're full of shit. I mean, if you've paid attention to the show for any 2-month period, I make predictions and some of them are wrong. You know, I mean, I didn't think that segregated witness would go on to Litecoin. Proven wrong. Completely wrong. However, I will say this. They don't have Lightning Network yet. And I don't even know that they have anything like really working right now. Supposedly, I guess maybe something in a test net. But for all of the hype and hysteria that went into that one, what good has it brought Litecoin? I mean, it might be going up in value now, but it's because people are looking at Bitcoin freaking out going, is this segregated witness shit going to fuck up Bitcoin or not? So, there's that force. And, you know, people are trying to dump out of it and whatnot. But I think another force, and this one, it coincides with the timing. I pay attention to things like timing. Okay, now if this thing were happening at like 3:00 a.m. Saturday morning, I would think it was something to do with crypto. You know, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be some increased interest in Ethereum. Okay, you know, because that's when shit happens for crypto people. Our markets run 24/7, so there is no Saturday, there is no Sunday. It is always Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday for us. And of course, we could experience Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday multiple times in any given 24-hour period. I mean, that's just how crypto operates. So, when I see things happening between the hours of 8 p.m. to 5 p.m., I think it's just as likely that it's institutional buyers. It's banks and other legacy finance interests that are moving these coins around. And I say that because that's their hours of operation. They work on a very limited frame of time, whereas we are open 24/7, 365. So again, if it's happening like the first dip, it happened on a Monday at about what, like 9-10 a.m. That's a bank saying, well, it doesn't look like we're going to get our segregated witness thing, so let's go ahead and dump this volume. It looks like it's on a mild downtrend. Let's go ahead and get out now. And we'll see how it goes after August 1st. We might elect to reposition on a dip or something like that. You know, it could be some coins being sold out onto the open market that were stolen from an exchange. You know, I've speculated multiple times on this show, suggesting that the hacks that are happening are people that are acting on behalf of legacy finance interests, and they steal the fucking Bitcoin from exchanges, either through corrupting the people on the inside or actually hacking in. They get the coin, they sell it really low, that depreciates the price. It obfuscates the relative value to the dollar or whatever fiat currency they're acting on behalf of, and their financial shenanigans are at least temporarily cloaked. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see these massive spikes in the price. You know, it's not just whales flipping about. It's because there's price suppression going on, and then they run out of Bitcoin to sell low. And then the fucking price goes through the roof because that's what the fucking market wants. Now, if the stolen Bitcoin weren't being bled out onto the market and sold low, you know, because they don't give a fuck if they lose money on coins that they stole, right? And so, like I said, they steal it from the exchanges because that's the biggest honeypot of them. They sell it out onto the market low, they run out, and then the price recovers, and it starts its upward trajectory again. You know, that's That's at least my explanation. And again, that's my conspiracy theory kind of Alex Jonesy kind of business that I don't know. I've been around long enough that just seems the most likely. I mean, if I'm mining it, I'm not going to sell the shit at a loss. I want to recover I want to recover, you know? I want to get back something that I put forward, you know? And so anyway, I was dinking around earlier today looking for things to read or cover on this show. And I came across the Uniform Regulation of Virtual Currency Business Act. Now, I'm tempted. I really am. Because you know how much I love legislation. But this thing is purportedly 65 pages long. And there are some pictures, and the text is very big. And there's not a lot of text per page. But I really don't think we can digest 65 pages worth of this shit. I don't know, maybe. I'm looking through it right now, and it's heavily spaced, like you would expect a government document to be. But I don't know. We may chew on it. If I'm thinking this is like a Monday thing, you know, and I don't believe it's. Let's see. This is from July 14th to July 20th, 2017. I don't know. I think we can wait. I think this is a good Monday thing. Kind of good way to start the week off. A good sock in the gut, you know. But what I did want to talk about, what I really wanted to talk about today, what I am going to talk about today, is this whole business with net neutrality. And I want to cover some articles on it. And then I want to launch into a little bit of what I think of the whole business. Oh, I'm sure I'll intersperse that throughout. You know me, I don't plan this fucking show. I mean, honestly, I don't. Because I feel like it's a detriment to the show. You know, I mean, some people would say that indicates that I don't really care about it. But if I didn't really care about it, I wouldn't tweet. I wouldn't be managing several social media accounts. I wouldn't bother to record them, and I certainly wouldn't be posting them up on YouTube or having gentlemen like John McAfee on the show. But I do like going forward with an organic flow. I mean, I have a general premise. I have a general idea of where I want to go, and sometimes I have specific articles picked out that I want to touch on. But for the most part, I feel like the immediacy of the moment draws out the best in me. And so, in any case, I am going to start this subject off with an article that I have recovered here. And this one is on osnews.com. Apple's deafening silence on net neutrality. And this was written by Thorn? Yeah. You know what? I got to make a minor adjustment. I got this huge ass monitor and this teeny tiny font. And it's driving me up a wall. There we go. So that's Thorn Holwerda. And I'm supposing Thorn has a penis, because why would you name somebody with a vagina Thorn? Anyway, continuing on. 2 days ago, the day of action to defend net neutrality took place. With the new U.S. administration came a new chairman of the FCC, Ajit Pai, or Pay? Ajit Pai? P-A-I. I don't know how to pronounce that. Who is working hard to try and undo the strict net neutrality rules put in place by his predecessor, Tom Wheeler. Pai and the U.S. Congress are under pressure from and enticed by millions of dollars worth of, quote, donations from the telecommunications industry to gut net neutrality. The 2017 Day of Action feels a lot like a retreat of 2014 when net neutrality was at stake as well. The 2014 campaign contributed to Tom Wheeler's decision to enact strict net neutrality rules and was supported by a large number of technology companies. This year, too, the Day of Action was supported by companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Netflix, Twitter, Reddit, Snap, Facebook, and so on. One company is conspicuously absent from the net neutrality debate: Apple. The Cupertino giant is usually all too eager to ride the waves of what in America political parlance are called, quote, liberal causes, so its absence from the fight for net neutrality may seem surprising. In reality, though, Apple's absence makes a lot of sense. Apple does not benefit from net neutrality. Apple has never openly supported net neutrality. Back in 2014, Apple was not among the 100 companies that signed the open letter in support of net neutrality, and it's not a member of the Internet Association, the industry group behind the Day of Action, which lobbies for net neutrality. In addition, in 2009, Apple was caught red-handed blocking voice-over IP solutions on the iPhone. The company had a secret agreement with AT&T to that effect. Tim Cook didn't so much as tweet about the Day of Action. The only instance of Apple saying anything about net neutrality was in February of 2017 in response to a question during a shareholders' meeting. Quote, "Finally, Tim Cook responded to a question about the Trump administration's position against net neutrality, which seemed to catch the executives off guard. While Apple has been vocal about a number of policies from the new president's office, Cook downplayed his response here. Quote, "We stay out of politics, but stay in policy. If net neutrality became a top thing, we would definitely engage in it." Cook also added that Apple is not a major lobbying company in comparison to others, but it believes all content should be treated the same. This is a rather weak statement, especially since unless you've been living under a rock, net neutrality has been a, quote, top thing for several years now. The time to, quote, engage in it was 2014 and this year, and on both critical occasions, Apple's utter silence is deafening. And in what some may find surprising, net neutrality is an entirely safe bet to support. Both sides of the political aisle in the U.S. overwhelmingly support net neutrality. So why is Apple silent? We can only guess, of course, but with a bit of common sense, it's not hard to formulate a likely answer. While Apple's iOS and Mac businesses are doing really well, the company is also trying to break into the streaming market for both music and video. Apple's foray into streaming music has really only just begun, with just 3%, 20 million people, of Apple's installed base subscribed to Apple Music. It's clear Apple has a lot of room to grow. However, it's also facing a lot of competition. Without the benefit of coming pre-installed on the most popular smartphone in the world, Spotify managed to add 20 million subscribers last year alone, now sitting at a total of 50 million subscribers. Apple's foray into streaming video, meanwhile, faces far greater competition from the likes of Netflix and Amazon Video. With this in mind, the answer as to why Apple remains silent on net neutrality should be easy to answer. If net neutrality rules were to be gutted, Apple could also leap at the opportunity to pay carriers and ISPs to favor its streaming services over the competition. Apple could easily outspend a company like Spotify, making sure Apple Music users would get preferential treatment from carriers/ISPs over Spotify users. As mentioned above, Apple did it before with VoIP, so it's not like this would be an unprecedented or uncharacteristic move for the Cupertino giant. Unless Apple breaks its silence and finally, openly, unequivocally, and determinedly supports net neutrality, the safe capitalist and historically informed assumption is that Apple does not want net neutrality because it would limit their ability to buy preferential treatment from carriers and ISPs. And it would be nice if the technology press stopped tiptoeing around Apple's silence on this crucially important matter. But Apple's preferential treatment in the technology press is a matter for another time. Huh. Well, that's terribly interesting. Yeah, what's this business overwhelmingly? Yeah, I don't know. That's one perspective with regard to why Apple would not support net neutrality. Although, I think I can give you another one, and this one isn't entirely outside the realm. Consider the possibility that maybe Apple is interested in letting net neutrality die because then it would allow AT&T and these big guys to abuse their position in the market even more. In which case, this might motivate people, or at least, might motivate people to pressure their government to allow for companies to be able to create their own networks and deploy them. In any case, I want to kick back down into some music here, and then we'll take that up again. And so for right now, we're going to go throw down a little bit of Helmet here, unsung, here on Coin Metal. And that was Windows Shut by Prong. Whew. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think to mention it earlier, but it was a relatively productive get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. And my apologies for those of you who were waiting for me to talk about Jiu-Jitsu. I know I normally address that right up front, but in all honesty, I was still too tired and buzzed out from it. You know, it's taken a little bit of time for the caffeine to kick in. But yeah, they definitely handed me my ass today in Jiu-Jitsu. A little bit of butterfly guard pass, and I don't know. I think I got somewhere. It's more in my realm. I'm more in the pressure pass kind of realm, you know, as opposed to X pass or things like that. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like an octopi. I like to really have a grip on my opponent. And I did try the corkscrew escape, but I didn't have my legs positioned properly. And for those of you who don't know what the corkscrew escape is, it's kind of something that I don't know if it's got a technical description in it, but I'm kind of working on it. And it's a stacking pass. You know, if somebody's got you locked up pretty good in their guard, what I like to do is put a hand on one side of their neck and get a grip on the back of their opposite shoulder. You know, so if I have the arm over their right shoulder, right, I like to grab the back of their left shoulder and put some real heavy pressure down and then start to tippy-toe out to one side. And what this invariably does is it puts their thigh on the ground and facilitates a little bit of room for you to get a pressure pass on in there. The only difficulty is if you don't position your hands and legs right when you're trying to do it, you end up with them taking your back. I mean, and I've got a little bit of experience doing the escape, from that position, as you may guess. A lot of people get to my back that way, but hey, it's just a way that I use to get out. I'm sure that I'll modify it further, and it won't be so easy to get my back. But yeah, like I said, I like to really stack up, tippy toe in, and then pick a shoulder. Put that arm over the shoulder and kind of anchor them to the mat with it, and then just kind of wiggle to one side, get that thigh to fold over, pass on in. Anyway, enough of the jiu-jitsu. My apologies, friends, but this is not jiu-jitsu metal. It is coin metal. So we will be talking more about this business. And so, net neutrality. One of the, I don't know if it's a foreseen outcome from this, but there's been I think it started back in 2014, probably a bit earlier, actually. I think I had heard about mesh networking earlier than that. But the idea of setting up small networks between you and some neighbors, and then expanding that. Like if you're in a city area, doing that kind of thing and developing any kind of network density would probably be a lot easier. I'm out here in the fucking boonies, and so I don't know. I could probably do some line of sight shit, but other than that, point being that I really think that it is like mining. That, it's AT&T's network, and, if they want to throttle my Netflix back so that, Apple can jerk off better, okay, good for them. That might act as a deterrent when I'm considering who I want to sign up with regard to my internet service provider or my network access provider or whatever the fuck. And such a thing might inspire me to study the TCP/IP stack and maybe figure out a way to modify it to where it could work better. I mean, or that I could modify my existing device to work on protocols other than TCP/IP for network connection. It might just motivate somebody to start that kind of development, and I'm sure it already has. But the point being that it's similar in the sense of regulation of cryptocurrencies, and that the harder you squeeze on one end of it, the more of it's going to spill out between your fingers. So with regard to the current paradigm of the internet, we have ISPs, and they can regulate your actual throughput and whatnot. But now, imagine if you and your friends started up a network, you could kind of you could break all of those limitations. You could probably even establish faster networks without intercession with the ISP. Would you be more interested in connecting with a shitty network that's going to plague your desktop with a bunch of bullshit and is going to throttle back the videos that you're watching for free because they want you to go to pay services, and they whiz bang those things out to your monitor, no problem? But no, you go to YouTube and watch some free content. No. We're going to plague you with commercials on that shit. You're not going to be able to escape commercials anymore. Unless, of course, you're connecting with people or servers that don't, or services that don't have or aren't using their position as much to abuse your interest. And I think that's a really important note that people forget, is that all of this, the connection to the internet, Bitcoin, net neutrality, all of this has to do with digital devices. Now, how how worth it is it to you to be online? I mean, if it's really worth it to you to be online, you'll suffer through some bullshit in order to do it. But you know, when you're looking at your life and how it's impacting your life, is it more a positive factor in your life or a detriment? And people are really going to start making that value judgment. They're going to be looking at that iPhone and saying, you know what? This thing is costing me, between the device itself, the service that goes on it, the insurance that I pay on it, all the shit that I pay for the apps and whatnot. If I were to take that same amount of money, I could afford a luxury vehicle. I could be paying the lease on a luxury vehicle and the insurance on a luxury vehicle. I could be driving around right now in a luxury vehicle, but no, instead I got this fucking iPhone 7, hottest thing on the planet as far as, you know, the screen and the cameras and all that shit. And despite the fact that it's constantly fucking spying on me, I need it. You know? I mean, but people are going to start flipping that around. They're going, well, wait a minute. You know what? If I can afford a luxury vehicle, I could probably afford a crappy vehicle and a decent boat. And then I can go fishing and fuck this goddamn iPhone thing, because I got like 8 lakes within like 15 minutes of my house. Rather than jerking off watching people fish on fucking YouTube, I could be making fishing videos on YouTube from the boat that I bought with the money that I'm not spending on a fucking iPhone and all the fucking bullshit services that are plaguing my fucking reality. That's the value decision that people are going to be making very, very soon. And especially if this fucking net neutrality thing happens. I mean, net neutrality makes them all fucking operate on a playing field. But what if they have that market control? And what if they do abuse that market position? What's it going to do? I bet you anything that there'll be a reduction in internet use. And if that's the intended effect, I mean, it'll probably happen. But I think that'll be temporary. When the necessity to connect to the planet becomes more a necessity for the public, they'll look for other ways to do it. They'll look for ways that do not include an ISP that rapes them for, you know, $20 to $120 a month just to connect. And all the bullshit services on top of it. Just they'll go to a library with a 2-year-old tablet, and they'll log on with public Wi-Fi for their email or to check their Twitter updates. But I really think that we're coming to the end of the time when we can be so cavalier about people's resources, you know, on the money that's necessary in order to continue to buy the products and continue to afford the services is going away. When we talk about introducing a blockchain to a bank, and they're talking about that's going to reduce their personnel overhead by 15%, they're talking about firing people. That's people that are no longer going to be making those nice fat banker paychecks and spending those back into the economy and using them for collateral, for loans and shit like that, for houses. I mean, I don't think sometimes I don't think people really think that far down the road, and the ones that do, they start saying radical shit like, we gotta have universal basic income, because they're looking at it, and they're probably looking at it from an AT&T executive boardroom saying, how the fuck are people going to continue to buy our service if we fire all of them? You know, they're looking at that reality. and like I said, it's only going to be so useful to people for so much longer. And That's one of the reasons why I had Mr. McAfee on here, is because I think his privacy phone is kind of a step in a different direction with regard to that, putting far more control over exactly what you see, exactly what the resources of your phone are utilized for. I mean, I imagine that if you were able to physically turn off your phone to the point where, you know, nobody can turn it back on, or have apps and shit running in the background while it's in sleep mode. If you can physically turn it off, I bet you anything that fucking iPhone would stay charged for about 24 hours instead of 5 or 6 when you're really active on it. It's because all your apps are still running in the background, and they're all using your battery, and they're all sucking off your bandwidth. I mean, really, is that what you're paying them for? Is so somebody else could utilize your resources for free? I mean, big whoop-de-doo, they give you a nice little interface that does a Google search in the background for you and gets really, really specific results. Big fucking whoop-de-doo. That app is still running in the background. It's still tapping on your fucking camera. It's still tapping on your microphone. It's still tapping your GPS, figuring out exactly where you are at all times. It's still monitoring your activity and beaming that to 1,000,001 other fucking people that want to market shit to you. It's still violating your privacy massively. But, you know, if it weren't sucking up your bandwidth doing that, and it weren't sucking up your battery doing that, it'd probably stay charged about 3 to 4 times longer. And I think that gets you more value out of it. But that's just me, you know. I'm one of those manufacturing kind of guys, and I think about efficiencies. And to me, hardware that craps out before it should, or doesn't stay charged as long as it should, is an inefficiency to be rectified. But then, again, that's my perspective. Any case, on to something a little better. But like I said, I do want to tap just briefly back to that. I really think that if net neutrality gets neutralized, that it will motivate an open source development into the deployment and access to the internet that does not include ISPs and all the infrastructure that allows all of our transactions, you know, and all of our digital transactions, not just monetary transactions being done in those digital transactions, but that takes the control of that out of the government and AT&T's hands and puts it back in the public's hands. I really think that because of the things like roads. I mean, we're getting around to putting tolls on roads now, which I find completely fucking obscene. But those roads, if they did not exist, the economy that you see around you would not exist. The internet, same thing. If there were a significant drop-off in internet participation and internet use, the internet that you are currently looking at would not be possible. So, I think people would be far more interested in maintaining the internet than letting a bunch of really, really big companies force feed them a bunch of bullshit. In any case, let's go ahead and get off that subject. I think we've dived deep enough into it, mined it far enough. And I got an article here by Bitcoin News. Swiss quote, another bank jumps to the Bitcoin train. Another bank is jumping onto the Bitcoin train. From now on, the online bank Swiss quote offers investments in the virtual currency Bitcoin on its trading platform. Swiss quote is thus the first European online bank with this offer, writes the Institute in a communication from Friday. Among the traditional banks, the Falcon Private Bank announced on Wednesday that it would enable its customers to invest in the crypt diet. What's a crypt diet? Bitcoin against euro or dollar. Many investors are interested in crypto options. Crypto options? Wow, this guy really doesn't know how to spell. But they did not dare to enter since the providers are not very well known and often demand a transfer to a foreign account, writes SwissQuote. The online bank cooperates with the Luxembourg company Bitstamp for its offer. According to the announcement, Bitstamp is the first and only exchange platform that has received a license from the EU for Bitcoin trading. SwissQuote customers can buy Bitcoin against Euro or US dollar. However, you cannot use additional leverage as in other currencies. The minimum amount for a Bitcoin transaction is $5. The maximum amount is $100,000. The cost is based on the amount of the transaction and is between 0.5 and 1% of the invested amount. Interesting. So SwissQuote, jumping on board, good stuff, like it. However, I don't feel that it's going to really contribute that much legitimacy to us. And so, yeah, very tiny article. Well, that's interesting. I did manage to mine up another article concerning net neutrality, and this one was authored on 7/13/2017, so it's not entirely too old. Although, from the name, Harper Nedig, I can't tell you whether this person has a penis or not. Poll. This is on thehill.com. Poll. GOP voters support net neutrality rules, oppose AT&T Time Warner merger. And one thing I'd like to add on that note, Time Warner and AT&T merging. I'm pretty sure that's like against some sort of antitrust law or some business. I don't know, creation of monopolies or something like that. But this is a move of desperation. When companies aren't making enough money from their customers, another thing they do to try and offset the big-ass divot in their books is they look around the market for something else of value, and they buy it. And then they do it through what is called mergers and acquisitions. And, so this AT&T Time Warner merger is kind of a consolidation, indicating that AT&T and Time Warner probably have big-ass divots in their balance sheets that they're looking to fill with one another's excesses. And usually what comes with M&A comes a lot of unemployment. Because what they do is they both look through one another's books and they say, well, here's some overlapping stuff, here's some other overlapping stuff. We'll just go ahead and fire those departments and then merge them together with half the number of the employees, and so on and so forth. We'll count that as a profit on next year's books. It's all good. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into this article. A new poll of Republican voters shows that a majority of President Trump's supporters are in favor of net neutrality rules and also oppose the pending AT&T Time Warner merger. The survey from trade group Encompass and IMGE, a GOP polling firm, shows that 75% of Trump voters and 72% of GOP voters say that internet service providers should be, quote, prohibited from slowing or blocking websites or video services like Netflix. However, when asked specifically if they support net neutrality, just 48% of Trump voters and 51% of Republicans said that they do. And 60% of the president's supporters said they agree with his campaign pledge to block the AT&T Time Warner merger. That figure drops to 57% among all Republicans and 42% among voters overall. Despite the president's the president expressing opposition on the campaign trail, it appears that the $85 billion deal will be approved. Encompass, which represents major tech companies and small telecom firms, has been a major advocate of the FCC's net neutrality rules, which are currently in the process of being repealed. The poll surveyed 1,502 registered voters between June 26th and 29th, and has an error margin of 2.5% points. Yeah. Well, I think some of the disconnect you can see there is is the more libertarian perspective that we're finding in the GOP voter base these days. And that's not hard to create when you're seeing the Republican Party looking to crouch back down on the war on drugs and start violating state laws in lieu of federal laws. That kind of pisses people off, especially when they've taken the time and effort to invest themselves and their time and their effort and their energies into participating in the cannabis market. So yeah, it's a good way to alienate voters and cause them to shift to more libertarian points of view. And so yeah, I think that's one of the things that is causing that kind of disconnect is the libertarian people are like, look, it's AT&T's fucking network. If they want to lose money by merging themselves with Time Warner, let them go ahead and do it. If they fuck up too badly, if they start being too totalitarian with their market position, we will shop elsewhere. That is called the free market. And the free market will only tolerate regulation so far. And so if you have a dual effect here where, again, there's even more abuse with regard to AT&T and their market position, and they do abuse it quite a bit as is. But further, and then on top of that, keeping the red tape in existence, thus prohibiting any additional competitors coming into the market, it's just a bad move. Because it will cause people to resort to criminal means to do basic everyday things. Or what you have deemed criminal in the meantime. And I think that's one of the realities that we're continually facing. It seems like we're like scrolling down a toilet, and that's like one of the shit stains on the wall that we keep smacking on the way down. That you have constraint on one side from the market, and then you have constraint on the other side from the government, and then you have constraint from the market, constraint from the government, constraint from the market, constraint from the government. And then behind that all, you've got that revolving door that's intersecting between government and business. And so business is writing the laws that are good for business while they're in government, and then they come back out and they enjoy the profits and whatnot of the laws that they put into effect. And then some competitor comes along or whatever, and they got to go back into government so they can fix the regulations so that person can't compete, or it's harder for them to compete, or they get less market share or something. And after they've achieved that, then they go back into business and they enjoy the profits from their abuse of our legislative system, and it's all over again. Gotta enjoy that. But I really think that the average person is getting sick of that shit. I mean, you can tell by the increasing interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a whole. I mean, ICOs. If you review the paperwork for half the ICOs out there, you look at it and you're like, what? It's a bunch of nothing. Got more content out of an Obama speech. And in my personal record book, President Obama holds the record for saying the highest number of consecutive words without conveying the least amount of actual information in them. Like, he says a bunch of words, but he isn't really saying anything. I mean, his wife comes in at a close second, but he's like a master. And I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, let's go ahead and kick back down to some music. I'm feeling some Sepultura going on in the background here, and I think that's the way to go. Sepultura. Let's see where I've got that at. Sepultura. Oh wait, it'll be back up here under Arise. Here we go. Altered State. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Anthrax with Evil Twin. Y'all know how much I love auto-playing videos. Well, I just got another one. This one on CoinDesk. And stuff just annoys the shit out of me. Anyway, I think we've chewed on net neutrality more than enough. Although I do have a friend that's working on something, and I don't know, maybe one of these days we'll actually get him on the show and talk about it. And it's kind of a different topology with regard to telecommunications, and it seemed to me there was some kind of tie-in with cryptocurrencies the last time that I heard him mention it. So I don't know. We'll have to touch back to that. I don't want to give away too much as is. Anyway, this is a coin show, so we have to cover things that are going on in Bitcoin, and this one caught me. You know, just I had to dig around a little bit to find something current, because for whatever reason the Twitter is not full of goodness today. Anyway, this one is on CoinDesk.com. GDAX plans to suspend Bitcoin withdrawals if UASF activates. And this is written on July 14th by Wolfie Zhao. And sorry, Wolfie, no picture, so no idea whether he has a penis or not. Digital currency exchange platform GDAX has revealed its contingency plans in the event a controversial Bitcoin scaling proposal is activated. As reported earlier today by CoinDesk, BIP 148, which triggers a so-called user-activated soft fork, or UASF, to activate the segregated witness scaling solution, are pushing ahead with their plans despite the popularity of another scaling proposal, SegWit 2x, which pairs the activation of SegWit with an increase to the size of the network's transaction blocks 3 months later. Yet, if SegWit 2x doesn't get enough support by August 1st, and BIP 148 takes hold without enough of the Bitcoin ecosystem support of its particular transaction chain, Bitcoin could split into two competing assets. It's a prospect that led GDAX, which is operated by startup Coinbase, to announce last night that in the event UASF happens, it will temporarily halt deposits and withdrawals and could take further action. GDAX General Manager Adam White wrote that the exchange could take action in the event that either one chain emerges as the stronger one or the two coexist as separate chains, explaining, quote, "In either scenario, we will implement safeguards to ensure the safety of our customers' funds. For example, we will temporarily suspend deposit and withdrawal of Bitcoin on GDAX and may pause the trading of Bitcoin as well. This decision will be based on our assessment of the technical risks posed by the fork, such as replay attacks and other factors that could create network instability." Coinbase was a signatory of an agreement struck in May between startups and miners in the industry, which led to the development of the SegWit 2x proposal. A second beta version of that software is expected to be released today. Want to stay up to date on the latest Bitcoin scaling developments? Follow the latest news and stay informed with our guides and explainers by clicking here. And we may just do that. So yeah, I don't think these UASF people really thought out like what they're trying to do. And hopefully neither option will actually get activated. Wouldn't that be a kick in the pants? Because then SegWit stays on the shelf, and we let people who are wanting to do off-chain solutions do off-chain solutions, rather than imposing the necessity to do off-chain solutions on everybody. Because more or less, I'm pretty sure that's what SegWit is meant to do. You know, it's most commonly bound with Lightning networks, and as I've said multiple times, probably at least once every show, I believe that the banks will be taking over that position, but they'll do that between regulatory containment, the fact that all of the regulatory bodies that are in position to issue licenses can do so quite arbitrarily, and as you may or may not have noticed, this is kind of holding things back in New York because they're very, very slow to issue those fucking bit licenses. And it leads one to believe, at least me, that they're only issuing licenses to people that are either subsidiaries or mostly owned by some legacy finance interest. That's just my thought on it, but I bet upon closer examination that's probably what you would find, is that whoever has received a bit license, they've got Goldman Sachs' hand buried up their ass, or Morgan Stanley, or JP Morgan, or, you know, one of the Federal Reserve, you know, some bit of manipulation, or, you know, some sock puppet of one of the interests of the legacy interests. Anyway, I'm not going to go too far into that. I don't like ranting about that stuff because honestly, I think that we're all kind of on an even playing field, and making changes like SegWit, I think it further contains the people that this technology was most designed to help out of participating in big segments of the market. And I don't think that's a good thing for us. I think that at least for the next 5 to 10 years, we should be openly competing to make the best medium of exchange between person to person that we possibly can, and the best network to support it. But time will tell how that shakes out. You know, I think that we're going to see more interest coming into Verge and other altcoins because of this business. And just like we're seeing a little bit of a decline in Ethereum as well. Holy shit. I wonder if this price is current. Holy shit. I guess there was a big sell-off. Oh, God. It lost even more. I hit refresh and it lost another $2. Ethereum is down to $190. Wow. That's a big bite in the ass right there. But, you know, what do you expect? You know, you let people issue ICOs willy-nilly against your fucking currency, or that's valuated in your currency, or against the volume of your currency. What do you expect? They're going to dump the shit and walk with the money. I don't know. I think Ethereum needs to, like, scrutinize a little more who they're letting do ICOs on their network, because this is bullshit. And I'm sure that a lot of Ethereum holders and miners are probably saying the same thing to themselves about now. You know, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll see a little more interest shifting over to Ethereum Classic now. And I feel stupid now because I sold some recently. Fuck. Anyway, I've already said on the show also, I am not the best trader in the world. I have yet to wreck too hard, other than an exchange collapsing out from under me. But yeah, not the greatest trader in the world. Anyway, I got this other article on CoinDesk, and this is Bitcoin Scaling Watch. News and guides to navigate the coming clash of code. As Bitcoin heads into July, the protocol stands on the cusp of major changes to its code, possibly. The result of years of heated discussion on how to expand the capabilities of Bitcoin for greater transaction volumes, two key proposals now stand on the verge of potentially disrupting or upgrading the network. Yeah, whatever. While generally described as a, quote, civil war, the battle over Bitcoin's technical roadmap is more nuanced. Yet, that's not to say there couldn't be real consequences. To help readers understand this turbulent time, we're assembling content, both new and old, to serve as a guide to the debate and a real-time way to track news and updates. We've already done that quite well on this show, thank you. In the days to come, we'll be updating this post as a resource. We're happy to consider collaborations and improvements as we seek to inform the world about changes and movements in Bitcoin code. The big picture: either the 40 billion economic network is on the verge of the biggest change in its history, or the most advanced scaling compromise is headed toward its biggest political failure. Penned by CoinDesk's Pete Rizzo and Alyssa Herdig, this article gives a 10,000-foot view on Bitcoin's upcoming code changes. We may want to click on that one. Guides and explainers, blah, 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 what SegWit 2x could mean, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I think, in all honesty, I think the whole thing is kind of blown up. You know, when I see people harping on specific individuals running specific companies and trying to put fucking bullshit pressure on them in media, I think that somebody is aiming below the belt line, you know, and that they should probably invest in some other utilization of their time. Because in the long run, when you look at the network as a whole, the people that are refusing to use segregated witness aren't just Jihan Wu. I mean, he might control a lot of hash power, but he doesn't control all of it. And he doesn't represent, like 60-70% of the network that has said no to this. So, again, we'll see. August 1st, we'll see. I think it's kind of funny now. It seems like segregated witness is being held in a little more additional scrutiny these days. And I think that's healthy. I hope it's not too little too late. But I think it's healthy that people are taking a more critical look at these quote-unquote advancements that are being proposed. And one thing I found in all of my searches is that there are other scaling options being put forward that don't include segregated witness or any of that other off-chain bullshit, but they're being censored or they're not being talked about. And it's this act like we're down to a binary option between segregated witness in our face or segregated witness in our ass, that it offends me. I mean, it really does. Why am I not hearing about some other BIP that's talking about just a a block size increase up to 4 megabytes or 8 megabytes. Why am I not hearing that? You can't tell me out of the millions of fucking developers out there that somebody hasn't written such a thing and tried to post it. But I'm not hearing about it on CoinDesk, and I'm not hearing about it on Bitcoin.com or Cointelegraph or any of that other bullshit, because somebody's got an agenda here. And like I said, it's either segregated witness in your face or segregated witness in your ass. It's kind of bullshit. Especially considering this is an open source project. Open source. Nobody dictates to us what fucking code to put out. Nobody dictates to us what direction Bitcoin should go in. Fire up some miners. Express your opinion in the BIPs you support. That's how you're supposed to be doing that shit. I reiterate, I find the whole idea offensive. I mean, if you really study up, if you read on what a 51% attack is, and then you read up on the fucking UASF, that's what they're proposing to do here. It's an organized 51% attack on the fucking network. And I mean, I'm really surprised that people don't see that. Or that more people don't see that. But, yeah, anyway, I was dinking around looking for other articles to read on this particular episode, and I came across one, and so far I think it's a misread, but we'll check it out just to do it. This is on CBSNews.com. Did a Bitcoin bubble just burst? And this was written by Jonathan Burr. Let's see, July 14th, 2017 at 5 a.m. Bitcoin and other so-called cryptocurrencies have plunged in value in recent weeks, prompting some observers to wonder whether that's a sign of a market bubble bursting. Prices for Bitcoin recently changed hands at $22.82, a decline of about 12% over the past month. Rival Ethereum has fared worse, plunging 47% during the same period to $191.92, even when this week's gains are included. The third largest cryptocurrency, called Ripple, has slumped nearly 25% over the past month, rebounding from earlier losses. Ripple, however, is priced at about 19 cents, so small price swings can have dramatic impacts. Even with the recent price drop, Bitcoin prices have surged more than 130% this year. Still, given how unpredictable the market has proven to be, potential users may be leery about embracing the digital currency, said Wolf Richter, a financial blogger who edits the Wolf Street site. He expects Bitcoin, which was $10 in 2013, to continue falling. Given the volatility, Bitcoin is not a stable currency. Fuck you, dude. A stable currency is a dead currency, Richter wrote in an email. And given transaction costs, it's a very expensive form of payment, and it takes a long time to process a transaction. Bullshit. So unless you're trying to hide your identity, it doesn't make economic sense to pay with Bitcoin. And I'd like to take just a moment and challenge Mr. Richter here. I went to a Bitcoin kiosk in the local mall. I entered in the amount that I intended to send to them. They printed out a receipt for that for me to send the money to. I sent the money to it. They confirmed the transaction less than 15 minutes. As a matter of fact, less than 5 minutes later. I mean, I walked away from the kiosk back to my vehicle. I was there for literally like 2 minutes. I got a text message indicating that the transaction had completed and to come back to the kiosk with my receipt and redeem it. I went back to the kiosk. I scanned the receipt. I got my fucking money. Now, that transaction completed in a total of less than 20 minutes. meaning it had been confirmed at least one time. Now, that's 20 minutes. Visa transactions take 3 to 5 business days. 20 minutes, 3 to 5 business days. You tell me which one is fucking slower, asshole. The Bitcoin market has already crashed 3 times between 2011 and 2014, plunging more than 50% on each occasion. Prices tumbled earlier this year after the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission rejected plans by the twin brother entrepreneurs Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss to offer a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, ETF. By comparison, the S&P 500 index, the broad stock market barometer, most closely followed by professional money managers, has gained, quote, only 9% this year. Shit. I think Verge gained 9% today. Richter and Tone Bays, a derivatives trader and consultant who hosts a podcast on the digital currency, differ on the question of whether the market for Bitcoin is in a bubble. According to Richter, it's bound to crash, quote, someday, though he declined to provide a forecast. Vay's view is that the cryptocurrency market isn't in a bubble because prices have only tripled in price at the peak, as opposed to prior bubbles when markets surged between 10 and 100 times. One reason Bitcoin prices have pulled back lately concerns debates over what code will be used to increase the number of transactions that can be done on the currency's network, according to Bays. Yes, we'd like to do 4 megabytes worth instead of 1. The Bitcoin ecosystem has been debating for a year on how best to scale Bitcoin, Bays wrote in an email. This should all be resolved by the end of August, but it's hard to say if it will end with a good ending or we'll end up with 2 coins, both claiming to be the real Bitcoin. Yeah, you know what's going to be the real defining factor there, Tone? The hash rate. For Bitcoin's rivals, however, the situation is different, especially with those who have crowdfunded new offerings through what's known as internal coin offerings, ICOs. Ethereum, which began this year priced at $8.17, has gained more than 2,600%. Ripple has skyrocketed more than 326,000% from less than half a penny to about 20 cents during that same time. Yeah, it's because they've had bankers stuffing about $4 billion up their ass. That'll make your fucking valuation go up too, don't you think? Quote, a token like Ethereum has gone up 10 times faster than Bitcoin, and it's fueling an ICO bubble no different than the, quote, .com IPOs of the late 90s, Vase said. It's possible that this bubble has popped, with Ethereum never reaching above $400 again, and many of the ICOs, which on paper made hundreds of millions on their token sales, may find their tokens worthless in the near future. No. Ethereum may be going through some current shit, but it's not going to go away. It's got about as much likelihood as Bitcoin has of going away. There's entirely too much institutional interest and entirely too much potential with the platform of actually producing good products for it to quote-unquote go away. So yeah, I do not share Mr. Bays' opinion on pretty much any of this. Although, I do think that, and again, there is a misread here, if not just the entirety of it. The Ethereum thing. One thing I did not see mentioned at all in here was the fact that some of the ICOs have been selling off some of their Ethereum for ops and setups and shit like that. So, whether or not they're buying boats and hoes with it, I couldn't tell you. I'm not an ICO operator or somebody working in an ICO or whatever. But I'm sure there's some of that going on. But when they do cash out the Ethereum, it tanks the price. That's all there is to it. Now, of course, they did have their flash crash and all that, but that was dealt with, and it doesn't seem like we're hearing too much about that. But again, we only heard, and I will give Tone this, he does address the one aspect here that most people don't, and most people completely overlook, and it's the central point of failure nature of Ethereum. That if Ethereum tanks, all of the ICOs, all of the projects that are attached to it tank. That is a central point of failure. Sorry, folks. That fits the fucking classical definition there. And thank you, Tone, for your contribution. Apparently, they are starting to look to us, as in us who are in cryptomedia, for advice and insight on this kind of stuff, which, fuck, that only took 8 years, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and kick back down to some music here. And I played it last time, but I love this song, so it's got to be A Shogun Named Marcus, Clutch, here on Coin Metal. And that was Slayer with Ghosts of War. Oh, I cannot wait. Very, very soon, I believe it's... Gosh, it might even be August 1st. Wouldn't that be a trip, huh? Slayer is going to be coming to Eugene. I cannot believe it. I really missed out. Like, back in like 2004? I think it was either 2003 or 2004. Slayer played in Eugene at, I believe, the same place. And somebody booked them on, of all days, Valentine's Day. Now, can you imagine that? You just broke up with your girlfriend, somebody says, hey man, you want to go to a Slayer concert on Valentine's Day? Oh, fuck yeah, man. That's exactly where I want to take my aggression. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. From what I understand, it was pure mayhem. A lot of people got kicked out. I think there was even some police action involved. So, you know, at least somebody had the foresight to wait until summer to do such a thing, you know, to bring Slayer back to such a tiny place like Eugene, Oregon. I mean, it's going to be awesome. And I am going. A fact that I like to rub my relatives' nose in, because, you know, they're not going. Anyway, let's go ahead and kick back down into some articles here. And I flipped back to my Twitter feed, and this is kind of in alignment with what we've been talking about today. Is like the greater implications of BIP 148, UASF, all that other business, SegWit 2X, and how it's impacting the market as a whole. And if you really want to get down to it, what we're talking about here is choice and the elimination of it. Like with regard to net neutrality, I think that eliminating net neutrality might be the creation of new choices. That's just my thought on it. I could be wrong. But I think with regard to Bitcoin and segregated witness and all that it's about taking away choices from those of us who are involved in cryptocurrencies and future people who may decide to involve themselves. So, anyway, back to this article here. AmericanBanker.com, what Santander's latest bets say about the future of fintech. And this is by Brian Yurkan. Brian apparently has a penis, but there is no picture here, so no visual verification. July 12, 2017 was the date of authorship, 3:09 p.m. EDT. Never more evidence that banks are bullish on AI? Just look at need more evidence that banks are bullish on AI. Just look at Santander Group's announcement Wednesday that its ventures capital arm has taken stakes in 2 startups in the artificial intelligence space. AI is an area where we see significant potential for things like reducing costs and improving efficiency. That's tech speak for firing people. Mariano Belinki, managing partner of Santander InnoVentures, said in an interview Wednesday, quote, It's a very disruptive technology and can bring significant change to our processes. It goes beyond chatbots to areas such as automation and natural language processing. The $200 million fintech fund now owns minority stakes in Los Angeles-based GridSpace, which uses natural language processing to analyze sentiment on phone conversations, and UK-based PixOnEye, which analyzes photos from a customer's smartphone to help companies market to them better. This follows previous investments in Elliptic and Socure, two other companies that employ machine learning technology. InnoVentures also announced it took a stake in UK-based Curve, a budgeting tool that combines a consumer's payment cards into one MasterCard. Santander is, of course, not the only bank investing in this technology. Others, such as Wells Fargo, Citi, and BBVA, have focused investment in AI technologies recently, and Bank of America is planning to deploy its proprietary virtual assistant, Erica. In terms of interest right now, AI seems to be near the top, said Emmett Higdon, director of mobile at Javelin Strategy and Research. A lot of banks are investing in it, though their investment arms or innovation labs. Through their innovation arms or innovation labs. Consumer-facing chatbots have tended to dominate the conversation of how banks will utilize AI. The technology's proponents also tout the promise of AI as a way to allow banks to operate more efficiently, from automating arduous and rote compliance tasks to poring over data much faster than humans can. Chatbots are the poster child at the moment, but there are a lot of different ways banks are looking to apply AI in dealings with customers, Higdon said. Indeed, Santander's investments show how AI in financial services is looking beyond chatbots. PixOnEye can help the bank gain greater customer insights. As an example, Belinki said that customers snapping photos of different houses might then be targeted with a mortgage campaign. He noted that photo data never leaves the customer's phone and is not seen by the bank. Fucking wonderful. GridSpace is an example of how AI is helping bank employees rather than replacing them. The technology analyzes phone conversations and can detect sentiment and provide feedback in real time. This can be used to help a call center or collections personnel do their jobs better. Quote, it can tell if the customer is getting frustrated, angry, or impatient, and allow us to adjust our script in real time, Belinki said. Banks can also use it for internal purposes, such as for monitoring traders, he added. Belinki added that as the VC group looks for additional investments in the business, it is retaining a narrow scope on banking. Quote, we are not interested in generalist solutions. We focus on those companies who can solve real financial service problems using AI, he said. Despite the movement of banks to embrace AI, legacy systems still hamper many banks' ability to realize its full potential in customer interactions, Higdon said. For many banks, quote, their legacy data stores are simply not compatible with the real-time, random access of customer-facing AI applications, he said. Okay. These fucking people have lost the plot. I mean, really, if I've got an AI pitching a script to me in real time, what the fucking use am I? I mean, have Erica or Alexa or Cortana or any one of these other bullshit AIs read the goddamn script to me. You know, if they're so good at judging my reactions and judging my emotions by how I'm, by like the tension in my voice and whatnot, if they're so good at that, what good is the customer service agent? I mean, all they're really doing is helping you bridge that uncanny gap by putting a human in there. But really, how long is it before that human is just replaced by a robot that can speak like a human? It's not all that long, folks. Not all that long at all. And so, considering that, okay, if you neutralize all the paper pushing jobs, that's good. It's increasing in efficiency and shit. But those people pull down maybe $100,000 a year or up to in the top of their departments. So that's a lot of economic activity that you're talking about eliminating there. You know, you're not just talking about eliminating jobs and making shit more efficient. You're talking about neutralizing economic activity. Or at least dumbing it down or reducing it, possibly increasing it. You know, you might have some intrepid souls among the staff that you're letting go, but it's not really likely. I mean, it's more likely that you're keeping the people that can help you move forward while you're offloading a lot of the detritus. This stuff is just fucking hilarious to me. You know, it's like they bitch about the economy tanking, and yet they're trying to replace us. And it's okay if you've got a market atmosphere that's such that the average person can go to their garage and start making something, and then go to a flea market and sell that something, and not worry about some sort of regulatory compliance hammering down on them. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world, and we have the pressure on both ends. And so I'm sure at some time in the not so distant future, the conflicts between there are going to be too much for our economy to sustain. You know, that we'll have lost so much of the economic activity and so much of the economic base supporting everything that we won't be able to support it. It's like, I mean, and there's just a little bit of leakage now through cryptocurrencies, but I expect that leakage is going to increase over time. You know, we're seeing it in India and China and Japan. In Japan, it seems like they're taking a more passive approach, in that they're just embracing it. They're like, fuck it, okay, go ahead, pay us taxes in Bitcoin, but you're going to pay us taxes. You know, there's not going to be any escapement there. And you know, it's a more healthy perspective, I guess. But in the long run, I think that the more open a government is with regard to that type of regulation, the better it is for everybody else. Because it sets a precedent, you know? It sets a precedent for how people are going to operate. And, you know, the way that these markets operate, the more it advantages me to use your service. It's like Bitfinex. I hate Bitfinex. I'm going to be closing my account there as soon as I possibly can. Why? because I got the account specifically so I could interact with my bank. And then they lost the ability to do that. So they're completely fucking pointless. And beyond that, their transaction fees are pretty fucking expensive. I mean, every time I trade there, I lose money. Like when I guess I'm just not a high enough volume trader or something. I mean, but I don't like the exchange. The interface being all black like it is, it doesn't do anything to help my confidence. I don't know. I much prefer Bitrex's interface. It's a little cleaner. I got a clearer image of what I'm seeing, I guess. I don't know. It's my preference. Anyway, I tried looking up some stuff about internet without ISPs, and I'm sure there's some sort of way to do it or not. I'm sure there is a way to do it, but I haven't figured it out yet. And I'm sure somebody is like pointing at their monitor at some fucking Google return going, "This is how you fucking do it, you idiot!" But, you know, hey. I had the shit kicked out of me earlier at jiu-jitsu, and it was my first class back in a few weeks, and that normally just takes it out of you. You know, it'll be a little bit before my energy level is such that I don't just completely crash after getting my ass handed to me at jiu-jitsu. But in any case, I'm gonna need to do it. I hear Rio Grande Blood playing in the background, and I feel the necessity to share it. And I know I've been playing a lot of music today, but like I said, man, they kick the crap out of me. I need just a little bit more recovery time here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it down. Rio Grande Blood by Ministry here on Coin Metal. And that was The Becoming by 9 Inch Nails. My apologies for the scratchy throat, y'all. But I did manage to come up with something to round out this last hour of the show here. And this was actually forwarded to me by one of my listeners. So I can't take full credit. Thank you very much. Good stuff. Anyway, this one is on the Merkle.com, and in light of this whole segregated witness business, I thought this was kind of interesting to mention. I've noted some people mentioning this, but it was a couple days ago that it seemed like there was any real talk about it. But this was by J.P. Buntix. July 13th, 2017, SegWit 2x miners accidentally fork Bitcoin testnet. Interesting. The Bitcoin testnet does not often break down suddenly. For some reason, that is exactly what happened 2 days ago after someone mined many testnet blocks. It seemingly triggered some protocol which would reject blocks if they are below a certain size. It took some time to rectify this situation, but things are seemingly back to normal. Bitcoin testnet BTC1 breaks down briefly. It appears a splitting of the Bitcoin blockchain is not the only thing to worry about right now. For the first time in a while, the BTC1 testnet experienced such a major issue, which left all nodes stuck on block 27070. Although this hiccup does not affect the Bitcoin mainnet by any means, it demonstrates the fragility of the network and reminds us to be careful in these following weeks. Someone was mining testnet blocks a few days ago. It appears this behavior triggered the BIP 102 rule, which rejects blocks too small in size. This is often solved by mining a larger block on the testnet, which would reset the trigger. That did not happen immediately. Thankfully, the matter got resolved eventually, but it highlights a larger underlying problem. It appears this unintentional fork was caused by the segregated witness 2x scaling solution. Any node running the SegWit 2x code was stuck on block 27070, whereas any other software could just carry on without problems. Granted, there is no real money on the line where the testnet is concerned, but events like these should not even take place to begin with, testnet or otherwise. It also highlights why SegWit 2x needs a lot more testing before it is scheduled to activate on the main Bitcoin network in just under 3 weeks from now. Everyone in the Bitcoin community knows SegWit 2x was cobbled together hastily and has not been thoroughly tested. Other developers have criticized the team for not taking their advice. Even the flaws pointed out have been ignored so far. If this had happened on the mainnet rather than the testnet, things would look incredibly bleak for Bitcoin right now. While this is a very disturbing development, there are those who feel this debacle needs to be shrugged off without giving it a second thought. Jeff Garzik, for example, believes a testnet miner triggered an event without the working group participants being prepared for it. While that may indeed be the case, it still goes to show the code will need some thorough vetting. A testnet is more susceptible to these types of quote attacks since there is much less hash power pointed to it. The testnet fork is both a blessing and a curse at the same time. On one hand, it shows there are some issues which may warrant further investigation moving forward. Then again, it, quote, only occurred on the testnet and no real harm has been done in the process. A very interesting development that will be talked about for quite some time to come. We can only hope issues like these will not arise once SegWit 2x gets activated on July 31st. So yeah, I don't even know why they're making the effort with SegWit 2x. I mean, if you've got 2 megabyte blocks, you've got twice as much room to stuff transactions in. So what do you need segregated witness for? You don't. Anywho, yeah, so again, at least it happened on the testnet, but there's another side to this. See, the pro-segregated witness people and all that have boasted the performance on the testnet. Now, just as the testnet doesn't necessarily reflect what would actually happen on the mainnet, just a likelihood in the event that certain circumstances were met. When you're talking about going out onto the live net with something that was fully qualled on the testnet, it does not reflect what will actually happen on the mainnet. And it's something to consider here. Big whoop-de-doo, the negative conflict didn't go out to the main net. Okay, that's good. That's what the testnet is there for. But just because it was qualled on the testnet does not mean that dinghy is going to float out on the ocean. Sorry, folks. It's just a fact. You know, I mean, there have been all kinds of little bugs that have made it through the testnet and have gone out there in certain circumstances rose and things have happened. Let's just say that. Anyway, we did touch on Ethereum just a little bit earlier, and I came across this other article while I was looking for that one. Anyway, I don't want to like blow that off really. I mean, like I said, it's good that it did happen on the testnet, you know. But like I said, it's the testnet isn't 100% a reflection of what will happen out on the live net, and Bitcoin gets hammered enough as is that yeah. Anyway, let's get over to this other article here. Why is the Ethereum price dropping? and will it recover? And this one again is by Mr. JP Buntix, and I'm assuming JP is a Mr. because there is no picture here. July 13th, 2017. Man is prolific. If he is a man, if he's a woman, she is prolific. A lot of people are concerned about the current Ethereum price trend. Ether's value has dropped significantly these past few days. The entire cryptocurrency scene is in a bearish market right now, yet it seems Ethereum is getting the worst of it compared to other major altcoins. One thing people would like to know is why this is happening right now. The rise and fall of Ethereum in 2017. There are many different reasons why Ethereum's price is falling after its incredible run during the past few months. Any strong value increase will ultimately lead to a correction. Anyone who thinks Ethereum could escape such a correction is either delusional or has no idea how the cryptocurrency ecosystem, or any market really, works. It is impossible to see a currency's value go up by over 1,000% in just a few weeks without seeing some degree of correction. Unfortunately for Ethereum users, that correction is rather severe. Finding a proper explanation for this trend is not easy as it appears. Most explanations are based on opinions. Actually, all of them are. There are no experts here. There are those who feel the uncertainty regarding Bitcoin is partially to blame for all of this as well. Not likely. There is a certain truth to that. Bitcoin's price will dictate the value of all other currencies, including Ethereum, except where they have pairings with other currencies. Another reason may be the large investors known as whales who are looking to prey on weak-minded traders and facilitate panic selling. People who firmly believe in the underlying value of Ethereum have nothing to worry about. After all, the value of Ether is still higher compared to what it was just under a year ago. Anyone who bought Ethereum at around $400 will be rather disappointed. One golden rule in cryptocurrency is to never choose a pump and buy a currency at the peak. There are still a lot of people who never got that message, apparently. There are also some concerns over the underlying Ethereum technology as well. The network has seen multiple instances of congestion. Ethereum's blockchain is not immutable, as that trial was lost when the developers decided to roll back transactions on the blockchain to bail out the DAO's investors. The DAO's investors. If the technology is not safe from censorship, rollbacks, or alterations, it does not have much of an intrinsic value to many. It is rather amazing how many people overlook that fact these days. To some people, this may seem like something that would only happen once, but that is not necessarily the case. Another rollback could happen at any given time should it ever be needed. A dangerous precedent has been set. In the end, any price decline is often a correlation of many different factors. First and foremost, the momentum has to end at some point. Nothing can go up indefinitely. Otherwise, everyone in cryptocurrency would become rich within a week. While that may sound like much fun, the ecosystem needs a constant flow of new investor money to make such a goal even remotely achievable. Right now, the money is headed the other direction. There is no reason to think Ethereum cannot recover. When this will happen and what will drive the increase is anyone's guess. The value increase to $400 was quite a steep one, and a lot of dumb money found its way into cryptocurrency. It appears Ethereum will need Bitcoin to go up in value to have a fighting chance. The flippening will not happen anytime soon if this trend continues. Ethereum's value is still on the high end of the scale considering all of the issues this ecosystem is dealing with right now. And yes, I agree with the assessment of the author here. JP Buntix, yes, he does have a penis. It's a him. Alright, yeah, I've said it before on this episode that there are, as JP points out, there are several factors. And one of them I happen to think is that you've had a series of ICOs come out. You've seen some congestion, and that's kicked back a lot of people. But on top of that, we've seen a successive series of sell-offs. And a lot of these, I'm almost guaranteeing, are these ICOs. And what you have to remember is that the bigger the ICO, the higher the volume of Ethereum they have to dump. So, I mean, when I hear about an ICO getting $262 million, I get kind of spooked about that. I mean, that means there's $262 million worth of Ethereum in the hands under one ICO. So if at some point they say, you know what, this project isn't working out the way we thought it would, we're not getting any headway with our code, we can't get the zoning approved for our site, we can't get the sources for our recycled gold, whatever, some little fuck up, and they have to do a major sell-off in order to recover or to recapitalize the issue that they're facing, and that's it. You know, they dump about $20-30 million worth of Ethereum, and that'll start a cascading run, just like we saw before. You know, I mean, we saw something just like that. $40 million worth of fucking Ethereum, man, gone. Somebody cashed out and fuck. Everybody else started scrambling to the door. I mean, but what do you expect? This is cryptocurrencies. That's what we do. The coins go up, the coins go down. Oh, wow. This is kind of new. But again, it's JP Buntix. Man, this guy's prolific. Prolific. I don't know if I want to touch on this one. We only got a few minutes left. We just talk it out. So what does all this mean? We've seen some major pullbacks this week. There's undoubtedly another major pullback somewhere else down the line here before August 1st. But I really think that'll be the defining line. And in all honesty, I could swear I saw something about the Fed having some sort of major action happening in the early weeks of April, and sometimes I'm wondering if they're kind of watching us to see when they can make their moves and cause the least amount of disruption on the FRN networks, or FRN markets rather. But anyway, yeah, I think the big shakeout is happening right now. A lot of weak hands are bailing. A lot of ICOs are getting their operational funding. And we'll see. As far as ICOs based on Ethereum, I don't see them going away anytime soon, and I don't see Ethereum going away anytime soon. There's just too much interest in it. There's too much potential to do real good with it. And so, yeah, like I said, I don't think we're going to see Ethereum crash to nothing, and I don't think that we'll see them end. I do think we'll see an additional pullback. And so if you are in Ethereum, you might want to bury your bags a little bit deeper. But as we've seen in a lot of the articles today, there does seem to be a sentiment that after we get over this hurdle, there's a good chance for recovery. And I happen to share that. But in the meantime, I gotta say, buy the dip. If you're into it for the long term, this is a fucking bump in the road for you. Buy the dip. If you're a Bitcoin hodler like I am, shit, if I had more money to buy Bitcoin, I would buy it right now, even at $2,200-$2,300 a fucking Bitcoin. because I think it's an excellent store of value, and I think over the longer term it's going to win out, because I think it's going to last a lot longer than its detractors. You know, I think they're operating on a burning fuse right now, and it's only so long before their fucking cash value drops out from under them, and their ability to manipulate in cryptocurrencies goes away. And I think it's kind of planned that way, that there's an overlap hoped to take place. And while we are seeing that kind of effect in India and elsewhere where currency controls have gone in and more constraints have been put up to try and keep the money within a geographical border, I just see these as more inspiration for people to seek escape, you know? And that, again, that over the longer term, the desire to escape that kind of regulatory oppression is going to win out. It might not seem like that right now because we're still seeing a lot of coercion and a lot of manipulation and whatnot, but that's just because people haven't gotten over themselves and gotten back down to brass tacks. Like, what can I do with this technology in my life to improve it? And when they start asking that, then they're going to get somewhere. Right now, they're just trying to enrich themselves by taking money away from other people, not trying to enrich themselves by creating additional value, which there are people out there that are trying to create additional value, both in the services that they provide and the way that their currencies operate. It's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm still heavily invested in Verge, because I consider whatever dips that we're going through right now to be just temporary aberrations. And I think in the longer term, as we do see more instances of regulatory capture and monetary capture exercised by national governments and state governments alike, that we're going to see greater utilization of currencies like Verge. That, we're just going to find our niche. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. It's been a pleasure, as always. And this episode I will be posting this one up on the YouTube channel for your listening pleasure if you weren't able to catch the entirety of it. And we will be back Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want you all to trade safe where you can. I want you to do your homework, because you got to right now. You never know what the winds of change are going to bring, and it helps to try and stay abreast of matters as they occur. And I want you to watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Thanks again for listening, and you all have an excellent weekend. We're going to go ahead and close it out with Prong one last time. Retreat. Here on Coin Metal. Night.